in my early 20s, I was at a party with this guy, and we weren't dating, but there was some pretty intense feelings going on, so we cared what the other person had to say. And at one point of the night, he takes a sip of his drink and he was like, this smells like smoke. Do you think this smells like smoke? So I took a sip of the drink and it did taste like smoke. So I looked down inside of it and there's just a whole cigarette in the cup. So I was like, well, did you put a cigarette in the cup? And he was like, no, I didn't put a cigarette in the cup. And I was like, oh my God, that's so rude. Who put a cigarette in your cup? And he was like, well, to be fair, it might not have been my cup after all. I kind of just picked it up off the table. And there were like a bunch of cups. And I was like, you just picked a cup up off the table and drank it, not really knowing if it was yours? And he was like, yeah, you've never done that before? And I was like, dude, I would never do that. And then he was like, why? Oh. And up until that moment, I realized that this boy had never had a thought in the world about picking up a suspicious looking cup and just drinking it. And I feel like this moment has always stood out to me because like he was a pretty perceptive guy who like had a lot of respect for the women in his life. So it wasn't like he'd never thought about this kind of thing before, but this was the first time he like really thought about it, you know? But I just looked at him and he looked at me and I was like, I think we've just made you a core memory right there. I think today might be the day that you learned that we live on the same planet, but maybe not the same world.